My name is Danielle, and I am 34 years old. For 5 years, I poured everything into building my tech startup from nothing into a successful company. But yesterday, my mom called with an ultimatum: make my younger brother an equal partner in my business, or she will disown me completely. This is the same brother who has sabotaged every project I have ever cared about. I have 48 hours to decide. What would you do in my shoes? Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to make an impossible choice between family and your own success. Growing up without a father was tough, but what made it harder was knowing I would never be my mother's favorite child. That honor belonged exclusively to my brother Jamie, who is 4 years younger than me. From the moment he was born, my mother made it clear he was her golden child, the sun around which our family orbited. When school fundraisers came around, my mother would tell me we could not afford the $20 for my field trip, but somehow always found $300 for Jamie's sports equipment. On birthdays, I would receive practical gifts like socks or school supplies, while Jamie got the latest video game console or a new bicycle. These differences were not subtle, and they hurt deeply. By 16, I was working after school at a local grocery store, saving every penny for college because I knew my mother would not help me. Meanwhile, Jamie was promised a fully funded education wherever he chose to go. The inequality was blatant, but any time I dared mention it, my mother would snap, "Jamie is special. He needs more support." Why are you so selfish, Danielle? The comparisons were constant and always unfavorable to me. Why cannot you get straight A's like Jamie? Jamie makes friends so easily, maybe you should smile more. Jamie has such potential. And the message was clear: he was destined for greatness while I was just ordinary. What hurt most were the times Jamie deliberately sabotaged my work. When I was 15, I spent months creating a photography portfolio for a school competition. Jamie spilled soda all over it, accidentally the night before submission. My mother laughed it off, saying, "Boys will be boys," while I stayed up all night trying to salvage my ruined photographs. For my senior project in high school, I built a small robot that could solve simple math equations. I had worked on it for 6 months, teaching myself programming and electronics. 2 days before presentation day, I found it dismantled in Jamie's room. He had wanted to see how it worked. My mother suggested I should be flattered by his interest. I got a C on the project because I could only partially reassemble it in time. College was my escape. I applied to universities across the country, ultimately accepting a scholarship at a school 2,000 miles away. The distance helped. I called my mother every Sunday, trying to maintain a relationship while protecting myself from the constant comparison and disappointment. During those years, Jamie bounced between community college programs, never completing any degree. He would start enthusiastically, then lose interest when courses required actual effort. My mother always had excuses ready. The professor did not like him. The material was not challenging enough for his brilliant mind. He is just taking time to find his passion. After graduation, I watched from afar as Jamie cycled through jobs. Sales associate at an electronics store fired after 4 months for repeatedly showing up late. Administrative assistant at an insurance company let go after 5 months for missing deadlines. Bartender lasted 6 months before being caught giving free drinks to friends. No matter what happened, it was never Jamie's fault. Someone was always out to get him, or the job was beneath his capabilities, or the environment was toxic. My mother would comfort him after each failure, assuring him the right opportunity would come along soon, while sending me texts suggesting I help him find employment at one of those tech companies you know. I tried maintaining boundaries while still being supportive. I sent job listings his way, offered to review his resume, even connected him with a few industry contacts, but he either ignored my help or squandered the opportunities. One friend who interviewed him as a favor to me said Jamie spent the entire meeting explaining how he should be hired for a management position despite having no relevant experience. Throughout all this, our mother continued to center her life around Jamie's needs. When I called her, the conversation would last 5 minutes before she would say, "I should go. Jamie needs me to help him with his resume or apartment hunting, car trouble." But when Jamie called, she would drop everything, even canceling plans with me on the 2 occasions I flew home to visit. It was painful but also freeing to recognize this pattern. Once I understood that nothing I achieved would ever be enough to earn the approval and love I craved from my mother, I could focus on building a life that made me happy. I stayed in touch, kept things cordial, but emotionally, I had begun to accept that our relationship would always be limited by her inability to see me as equal to my brother. Little did I know that this family dynamic, which I thought I had successfully escaped, was about to collide violently with the life and business I had worked so hard to build. After graduating with my MBA, I knew I wanted to create something meaningful. I had worked 3 jobs to put myself through graduate school, often sleeping just 4 hours a night, while maintaining a 4-point GPA. The scholarship helped, but it only covered tuition, not living expenses or books. My apartment during those years was barely 500 square feet, with a mattress on the floor and a folding table that served as both desk and dining table. Dinner was usually ramen noodles or peanut butter sandwiches, anything cheap that could fuel late-night study sessions. I turned down invitations to networking events I could not afford, and wore the same professional outfit to every interview, carefully steaming it in the bathroom before each appearance. The idea for my company came during an educational psychology course. We were discussing learning disabilities and how traditional teaching methods often failed students with different cognitive processing styles. Having struggled with undiagnosed ADHD until college, this resonated deeply with me. What if there was an app that could adapt in real time to different learning styles? Something that could present the same material in multiple formats based on how the individual student best processed information. I spent 6 months developing the concept, coding a basic prototype between classes and work shifts. My professors were encouraging but realistic about the challenges ahead. Educational technology is a crowded space, one warned. You will need something truly revolutionary to stand out. My breakthrough came when I met Sarah at a campus startup event. She had a background in cognitive science and had been working on similar ideas from a different angle. Where I focused on the technology, she understood the neuroscience. Our skills complemented each other perfectly, and after several coffee meetings that stretched into 5-hour brainstorming sessions, we decided to become business partners. Sarah believed in the vision enough to invest her modest savings, which gave us enough runway to develop a more sophisticated prototype. We worked out of her garage, taking turns bringing grocery store sandwiches and brewing endless pots of coffee. Weekends and holidays disappeared as we refined our algorithms and user interface. Then came the hard part, finding investors. We created a pitch deck that explained our vision and the potential market impact. The educational technology sector was worth billions, and we had something genuinely innovative. We practiced our presentation until we could recite it in our sleep, then started contacting every investor and venture capital firm in our network. The rejections piled up quickly. Too early stage. Not scalable enough. Education is a tough market to monetize. Come back when you have users. We kept detailed notes after each meeting, refining our pitch based on the feedback. By rejection number 26, I was ready to give up. Sarah talked me down and we kept going. Rejection 47 came from a venture capitalist who actually understood the educational space. He spent 2 hours with us asking insightful questions and challenging our assumptions. I thought for sure this was our moment. Then he said no, explaining that while he loved the concept, he had been burned by edtech investments before. As we were packing up to leave defeated, he said something that changed everything. My sister is a special education administrator for the state. She might be interested in piloting this in a few schools. Should I make an introduction? That connection led to our first real-world implementation, which gave us the user data and testimonials we needed. 2 months later, we secured our first round of funding, $500,000, to expand our pilot programs and hire our first employees. I remember Sarah and I standing in the parking lot after signing the paperwork, both of us too stunned to celebrate. "We actually did it," she whispered, and then we both burst into tears. Those early years were brutal. We worked 18-hour days, slept on office couches, and faced crisis after crisis. Our first hire was a disaster who nearly crashed our entire database. We had to pivot our business model twice when our initial monetization strategy proved unsustainable. There was the lawsuit from a competitor claiming patent infringement that cost us $60,000 to settle, even though their claim was weak. Sarah and I went without salaries for the first 2 years, reinvesting everything into the company. I lived on credit cards for months, watching my debt climb while hoping our gamble would pay off. There were nights I would wake up in a cold sweat, terrified we were just deluding ourselves and headed for catastrophic failure. The turning point came 3 years in when a major school district signed a contract to implement our platform across all their special education programs. Suddenly, other districts were calling and we had to scale quickly. We moved from Sarah's garage to actual office space, hired a proper development team, and brought on experienced education professionals to refine our product. Today, 5 years after writing the first line of code, our company employs 75 people and generates $8 million in annual revenue. We have implementations in over 200 school districts across the country, and our user base grows every month. We have won awards for innovation in educational technology and been featured in major industry publications. Through all of this, my mother showed minimal interest. When I called to tell her about our first funding round, she said, "That is nice, dear," before immediately changing the subject to Jamie's latest job interview. When we were featured in a major tech magazine, I sent her a copy. She never mentioned receiving it. At every milestone, my accomplishments were acknowledged with lukewarm enthusiasm at best, while Jamie's smallest steps forward were celebrated as monumental achievements. Last Christmas, I flew home and brought company swag for everyone, high-quality backpacks with our logo filled with tech gadgets. My mother thanked me, then set hers aside unused. When Jamie arrived 3 hours late to dinner, she gushed over the cheap scented candle he had picked up at a gas station on the way over. I had made peace with this dynamic. My company's success gave me the validation and purpose I had always craved. I had wonderful friends, a fantastic business partner, and the knowledge that I was making a real difference in how children with learning differences experienced education. I did not need my mother's approval anymore. Or at least that is what I told myself until her call yesterday turned my world upside down. It was Tuesday afternoon, and I was reviewing quarterly projections with our finance team when my assistant poked her head in. "Your mother is on line 1. She says it is urgent." My mother rarely called during business hours. In fact, she rarely called at all. Usually, I was the one maintaining our relationship with my weekly Sunday calls. My stomach immediately knotted with worry. Was she ill? Had something happened? "Can you all give me 15 minutes? I asked, and the team filed out as I picked up the phone. "Mom, is everything okay?" "Danielle, sweetheart, how are you?" Her voice was overly bright with that particular tone she used when she wanted something. My anxiety shifted from concern to wariness. "I am good, Mom. Is something wrong? You never call me at work." "Cannot a mother check in on her successful daughter?" She laughed, a brittle sound that did not reach her words. "I was just thinking about you and wondered how the business is going." This was new. In 5 years, she had never once voluntarily asked about my company. "It is going well. We are actually in the middle of launching a new feature that helps identify early reading difficulties. Is that why you called?" "Oh, that sounds wonderful, dear. So innovative. You always were clever with computers." Another forced laugh. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about Jamie." Of course. The familiar disappointment settled in my chest. "What about him?" "Well, he has had a bit of a setback. That marketing job he started in February, they let him go yesterday. Something about reorganization, though, between you and me. I think his boss was threatened by his creative ideas." This was the 5th job Jamie had lost in 2 years. I made a non-committal sound, waiting for the real purpose of the call. "Anyway, I was thinking," she continued, her voice taking on a wheedling quality. "You have done so well with your little app company. It must be nice having all those employees and that big office." "We have worked very hard for what we have built," I said carefully. "Of course you have. And Jamie has been working hard too in his own way. He just needs the right opportunity." And then it hit me, what if Jamie came to work with you as a partner? I nearly dropped the phone. "A partner? Mom, do you mean like an employee? Because we do have an opening in customer support that might—" "No, no," she cut me off impatiently. "A real partner, equal to you, with the same authority and ownership. Jamie has so many wonderful ideas about how to grow your business. He was just telling me yesterday about videos and influencer marketing. Very cutting-edge stuff. I struggled to keep my voice level. Mom, this is a multi-million-dollar company with investors and employees who depend on us. Partnership is not something we hand out, especially to someone with no experience in educational technology or business management. But he is family, she exclaimed, as if that trumped all other considerations. And he has so much potential. You know, he has always been exceptionally bright. He just needs someone to believe in him. I do believe in him. I lied. But partnership is not the right fit. I would be happy to talk to him about actual positions he might be qualified for. Her voice hardened. He is your brother, Danielle. After everything I have done for you, this is how you repay me, by refusing to help your own family. What exactly have you done for me? The words escaped before I could stop them, years of hurt bubbling to the surface. I put myself through school. I built this company without any support from either of you. Jamie has never shown the slightest interest in what I do until now when he needs a job. There was a shocked silence on the other end. Then her voice, dangerously quiet. I raised you. I kept a roof over your head, and this is the thanks I get. Your brother needs this. He deserves this chance. Why does he deserve to be handed half of what I spent years building? Because he is smarter than you, she snapped. He always has been. He just needs the right showcase for his talents. You have been lucky, Danielle. Jamie has had obstacles you cannot even imagine. I felt like I had been slapped. Despite everything, some childish part of me had still hoped my mother saw value in me and what I had accomplished. Now I knew the truth in her eyes. Any success I had achieved was mere luck, while Jamie's failures were due to external circumstances beyond his control. I cannot make him a partner, I said finally. It would be irresponsible to the business, our investors, and our employees, but I am happy to discuss other ways I might help him. I thought you might say that. Her tone was cold now. So here is what is going to happen. You have 48 hours to reconsider. Either Jamie becomes an equal partner in your company with all the benefits and authority that entails, or I am no longer your mother. What? I whispered, my hand tightening on the phone. You heard me. 48 hours. If you choose your precious company over your family, do not call me again. You will not be welcome in my home. I will not acknowledge you as my daughter. It is time you showed some loyalty to the people who matter. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Mom, you cannot be serious. This is my life's work you are asking me to risk. 48 hours, Danielle. I will expect your call. And with that, she hung up. I sat motionless, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. Eventually, I realized I was gasping for air, my body shaking uncontrollably. I managed to text my assistant, "Need a moment, reschedule finance meeting." Then I put my head between my knees and focused on breathing, trying to process the fact that my own mother had just threatened to disown me if I did not hand over half my company to my irresponsible brother. I spent that night pacing my apartment, replaying the conversation and every interaction with my mother over the last 34 years. Had she ever loved me for myself, or had I always just been the responsible one, the one who did not need attention because I could take care of myself? Was our entire relationship conditional on my sacrificing my needs for Jamie's? By morning, I was exhausted, my eyes swollen from crying, but more clear-headed than I had been in years. This was not a new dynamic, I realized. It was simply the most extreme version of a pattern that had defined my entire life. And for the first time, I had something valuable enough that my mother thought she could leverage my fear of losing her to take it from me and give it to Jamie. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The next morning, I called Sarah and asked if she could meet me for coffee before work. We had been through everything together, and I needed her perspective before I made any decisions. When I finished explaining the situation, Sarah was speechless for nearly a full minute. Then she set down her cup with deliberate care. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Your mother, who has never shown any interest in our company, wants us to make your brother, who has never held a job for more than 6 months, an equal partner with the same decision-making power and ownership stake that you and I have earned over 5 years of 80-hour weeks and multiple near bankruptcies. Put that way, it sounded even more absurd than it had in my head. Yes. And if you do not agree to this completely unreasonable demand, she will disown you. I nodded, tears threatening again. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Danielle, I know she is your mother and you love her, and as your friend, I want to support whatever decision you make. But as your business partner, I have to say this is absolutely out of the question. We have investors who trusted us with their money. We have employees whose livelihoods depend on our good judgment. We cannot bring in someone with no relevant experience, no demonstrated work ethic, and a history of failure as an equal partner just because he is your brother. I know, I whispered. Logically, I know that. Has Jamie even expressed interest in educational technology before? Does he have any background in software development, education, business management, anything relevant to what we do? No, Mom said he has ideas about videos and influencer marketing. I made air quotes with my fingers. We already have a marketing department with actual professionals who understand our industry. Sarah nodded. I remember meeting Jamie at the holiday party 2 years ago. He spent 20 minutes telling our head engineer how we should pivot to cryptocurrency, then disappeared when it was time to help clean up. I had forgotten that interaction. Jamie had shown up uninvited, drank all the expensive whiskey we had bought for our investors, and monopolized conversations by explaining our business to the very people who had built it. I had been so embarrassed. What do you think I should do? I asked Sarah. That depends on what you value most, she said gently. If maintaining a relationship with your mother is the most important thing to you, regardless of how unhealthy that relationship might be, then you will need to find some compromise. But Danielle, from everything you have told me over the years, and from what you just shared, your mother is using your love for her as a weapon. That is not love. That is manipulation. Later that day, I had an emergency session with my therapist, Dr. Maxwell, whom I had been seeing on and off since the company's early struggles triggered anxiety attacks. I laid out the entire situation, including Sarah's perspective. What does your gut tell you? Dr. Maxwell asked after listening intently. That this is wrong. That I would be betraying myself, betraying the company, and everyone who depends on it if I gave in to this demand. And why is it difficult to follow that instinct? I thought about it. Because I keep thinking, what if this is my last chance? What if I say no and she really does cut me off forever? She is still my mother. Despite everything, I love her. I want her to be proud of me. Has anything you have ever done made her truly proud of you? Pride that was not immediately followed by a comparison to your brother or a minimization of your achievement. The question hit me like a blow. I searched my memory for a single instance where my mother had celebrated my success without qualification. I could not find one. Dr. Maxwell nodded as though my silence was answer enough. Danielle, one of the hardest things we ever do is recognize when a relationship is fundamentally unequal. Your mother is asking you to risk your financial security, your professional reputation, and the welfare of everyone connected to your company for the benefit of your brother. What is she risking in return? Nothing, I admitted. Exactly. This is not a mutual exchange. This is not even a reasonable request between family members. This is an attempt to exploit your success because it is easier than addressing the real issues with your brother's employment history. That evening, my phone rang with Jamie's number. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won out. Hello, Danny. His voice was overly cheerful, using the nickname I had repeatedly asked him not to use. How is my successful sister? Mom told me you two had a great talk yesterday about the future. I closed my eyes, fighting for composure. Jamie, why do you want to be part of my company? Because we are family, he exclaimed as if this explained everything. And family sticks together, right? Plus, I have tons of amazing ideas that could take your little education app to the next level. We could expand into gaming, social media, maybe even the metaverse. These were buzzwords with no relevance to our mission of helping students with learning differences. Do you know what our company actually does, Jamie? He hesitated. You make learning software for kids, right? But that is just the beginning. With my marketing expertise, we could pivot to where the real money is. Marketing expertise? From which of your previous jobs did you gain this expertise? The words came out sharper than I intended. Well, I have not had the opportunities you have had, he said, his tone immediately defensive. Not everyone can be Miss Perfect with their fancy MBA. Some of us have had to struggle. I bit back a laugh. If he only knew how much I had struggled while he was receiving constant support from our mother. Jamie, this is a specialized field that requires specific knowledge and experience. I can learn. I am a quick study. You know, I have always been the smart one. There it was again, the family mythology that Jamie was naturally brilliant while I was merely hardworking. Being smart is not enough. This company represents years of sacrifice and effort, not just from me, but from everyone who works here. His voice turned wheedling. Come on, Danny, I really need this. I am in a tight spot right now. I have some debts and the landlord is threatening eviction. Finally, some truth. How much do you owe? He named a figure that made me wince. But that would all be fixed if I had a steady income as a partner in your company. We could structure it so some of my shares go toward paying that off. So this is not about contributing to the business. This is about solving your financial problems. It is about family helping family, he insisted. Mom has done everything for us, and now she is asking for one thing in return. One thing, Danny. How can you be so selfish? The conversation continued in circles with Jamie, alternating between flattery, guilt trips, and thinly veiled insults to my intelligence and creativity. By the time I hung up, I had a pounding headache and dozens of text messages from my mother, each more manipulative than the last. After all I have sacrificed for you. Your brother is suffering while you hoard success. I raised you to care about family above all else. This is breaking my heart. The final message was the most telling. I have told the whole family about your selfishness. Aunt Linda thinks you have changed, becoming cold and corporate. So she was mobilizing the extended family against me, trying to increase the pressure from all sides. Right on cue, my phone began ringing with calls from relatives who normally contacted me only on holidays. I let them go to voicemail, unable to face more emotional manipulation. As I listened to the messages, a pattern emerged. None of them understood what my mother was actually asking. Your brother just needs a job, my aunt said. Surely you can find something for him at your company. They had been told a twisted version of the truth where I was refusing to help my struggling brother in any way. Not that I was being asked to make him an equal owner of a multimillion-dollar business he had contributed nothing to creating. The coordinated pressure campaign only strengthened my resolve. If my mother had to lie to the family to gain their support, she knew her demand was unreasonable. This was not about helping Jamie find stability. This was about control, about forcing me to acknowledge that family loyalty trumped everything else, including my own well-being and the welfare of everyone connected to my company. With this clarity came pain, but also determination. I knew what I had to do. I slept poorly that night, but woke with a strange sense of calm. The decision had crystallized in my mind, and though it hurt, it also felt right in a way I could not entirely explain. First, I drafted an email to our board of directors, explaining the situation transparently. I did not want rumors or family drama to blindside them later. I emphasized that under no circumstances would I be adding a new partner, especially one without relevant qualifications, but wanted them to be aware of potential personal issues that might arise. The responses were unanimously supportive. Your judgment built this company. We trust it completely, wrote our lead investor. Our board chair called personally to tell me she had dealt with similar family pressures and offered her full backing for whatever boundaries I needed to set. Next, I wrote out what I wanted to say to my mother. Not a script, but key points I needed to cover without getting derailed by emotional manipulation. This conversation would be one of the hardest of my life, and I knew from experience how easily she could twist my words and intentions. At exactly 5 o'clock, the 24-hour mark from her ultimatum, I called her. She answered on the first ring as if she had been sitting by the phone. Have you made the right decision? She asked immediately, not bothering with pleasantries. I took a deep breath. Mom, I have thought about this carefully, and I cannot make Jamie a partner in my company. Cannot or will not. Her voice was cold. Both. It would be irresponsible to my employees, my investors, and everything we have built. It would also be unfair to Jamie, setting him up for failure in a role he is not qualified for. So you think your brother is not good enough for your precious company? After all he has been through. I stuck to my prepared points. This is not about worth as a person. This is about specific skills and experience. Jamie has no background in educational technology, no management experience, and frankly, no demonstrated commitment to any professional path. His work history shows he struggles with basic employment responsibilities. He just needs a chance, she cried. A chance that you are selfishly denying him because you want all the success for yourself. Mom, I am willing to help Jamie in other ways. I can connect him with career counselors who specialize in finding good fits for people's skills. I can introduce him to contacts in fields he is genuinely interested in. I can even loan him money to get current on his debts. But I cannot and will not make him a partner in my business. Then you are no longer my daughter, she said, her voice shaking with what sounded like genuine emotion. I have only one child now. Do not call me again. Do not come to my house. You are dead to me. Despite having anticipated these exact words, they still cut deeply. Mom, please do not do this. I love you. I want us to have a relationship. I just cannot give you what you are asking for. Love? She laughed bitterly. You do not know the meaning of the word. Love means sacrifice. Love means putting family first. You are choosing money and status over your own blood. No, I said firmly, finding strength I did not know I possessed. I am choosing responsibility to the 75 families who depend on this company for their livelihoods. I am choosing the mission we built to help children learn in ways that work for them. I am choosing not to betray the trust of everyone who believed in us enough to invest their money and careers. And yes, I am also choosing to value the work and sacrifice that created something meaningful rather than giving it away to someone who has not earned it. You always were selfish, she spat. Cold and calculating just like your father. It was the first time she had compared me to my father in years, and it was clearly meant to wound. Instead, it gave me a strange sense of peace. Maybe I was like him, the parent who had walked away rather than stay in a toxic dynamic. Maybe that was not the insult she thought it was. I am sorry you feel that way, I said quietly. My offer to help Jamie in other ways stands. If you change your mind about our relationship, I will be here. I love you, Mom, even if you cannot love me as I am. She hung up without another word. I sat in the silence of my apartment waiting for the wave of grief to hit. It came, but alongside it was something unexpected relief. For the first time in my life, I had stood firm on my own boundaries without apologizing for taking up space in the world. I had named the truth of our family dynamic without minimizing it to keep the peace. It hurt, but it also felt necessary, like setting a broken bone so it could finally heal properly. My phone rang again. Jamie's name flashed on the screen. I considered ignoring it, but decided to face everything at once. Hello. You bitch, he snarled without preamble. You entitled stuck-up bitch. Mom is heartbroken because of you. Jamie, I am sorry you are upset, but my decision is final. You think you are so special with your fancy company and your success. You have always been jealous of me, of the fact that I am Mom's favorite. Now you are punishing both of us because you cannot stand that I might finally have something good too. The projection was so blatant it would have been laughable if it were not so sad. That is not what is happening here. I will ruin you, he threatened, his voice shaking with rage. I will tell everyone what you are really like. I will post online about how you abandoned your family when they needed you. I will contact your clients and let them know what kind of person they are doing business with. Jamie, that would be defamation and I would be forced to respond legally, I said as calmly as I could. I want to help you, just not in the way you and Mom are demanding. I do not need your charity, he spat. Keep your blood money. But know this, you have lost your family forever. I hope your company is enough to keep you warm at night. After he hung up, I sat motionless for a long time. Then I did something I had never allowed myself before. I cried without restraint, releasing 34 years of trying to earn love that had always been conditionally given to someone else. When the tears finally stopped, I washed my face and went into the office. I had called an emergency leadership meeting to inform them of what had happened, wanting to get ahead of any potential fallout from Jamie's threats. My team's response was overwhelming. The support and understanding they showed confirmed what I already knew. I had made the painful but right decision. This was my real family, now the one I had chosen and built through shared purpose and mutual respect. The weeks that followed tested me in ways I had not anticipated. True to his word, Jamie launched a social media campaign against me. He created posts claiming I had stolen his ideas to start the company, that I had abandoned our mother when she was ill, a complete fabrication, and that I refused to help him despite his supposed contributions to my success. Most people saw through the obvious falsehoods, but it still hurt to see my name and reputation dragged through mud, especially when distant acquaintances or former classmates would comment sympathetically on his posts, having only heard his distorted version of events. My mother joined the attack, contacting several employees directly through LinkedIn, telling them I was unstable and untrustworthy, and suggesting they find other employment before the company inevitably failed under my leadership. Our HR director handled these communications professionally, but the invasion of my professional space by my personal problems was deeply unsettling. Jamie even showed up at our office one afternoon demanding to speak to me. Security escorted him out, but not before he created a scene in the reception area, shouting that I had betrayed my family and would regret it. Several employees witnessed this meltdown, which was both embarrassing and concerning. The extended family divided into camps. Most sided with my mother initially, having heard only her version of events. My Aunt Linda, who had always been close to my mother, sent a scathing email accusing me of having become too important for the people who raised you. My cousins unfriended me on social media. But gradually, as the truth filtered out, a few family members reached out privately. My Uncle David called to say he had always seen how differently my mother treated Jamie and me, and while he did not condone cutting family ties, he understood why I had drawn this boundary. My grandmother, in her 80s and usually reluctant to get involved in family disputes, sent a handwritten letter saying simply, "You were always worthy of more than you received. Stand tall." These small gestures of understanding helped, but they could not fully counteract the pain of my mother's rejection or the stress of Jamie's ongoing harassment. I struggled with insomnia, often lying awake replaying conversations and wondering if there had been another path I could have taken. I lost weight, finding it difficult to eat when my stomach was constantly knotted with anxiety. Sarah noticed I was struggling and insisted on weekly dinners, where we talked about anything but work or family. These evenings became a lifeline, reminding me there was more to my identity than this conflict. Other friends rallied around me too, particularly those who had known me long enough to understand the family dynamics at play. At work, I tried to maintain a professional demeanor, but the strain showed. During a critical investor presentation, I momentarily lost my train of thought when I noticed an email from my mother pop up on my phone. The momentary lapse was covered smoothly by Sarah, but it shook my confidence. If I could not compartmentalize effectively, how could I lead? The lowest point came during a virtual meeting with a potential major client. In the middle of my presentation, I received a text from an unknown number which I glanced at automatically. It was from Jamie, somehow using a new phone to bypass my blocks. "Mom is in the hospital because of you. I hope you are happy now." My heart nearly stopped. I excused myself from the call, handed control to our sales director, and frantically tried to determine if this was true or just another manipulation tactic. It took 30 minutes of calling hospitals and finally reaching my Uncle David to confirm it was a lie. My mother was fine playing bridge with friends that very moment. When I returned to the meeting, apologizing profusely for the interruption, I could see the concern and confusion on the clients' faces. We lost that contract. The company absorbed the setback, but I was devastated by my failure to maintain boundaries between my personal crisis and professional responsibilities. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the wall and wondering if I was strong enough to weather this storm. Part of me wanted to surrender to call my mother and agree to her demands just to end the psychological warfare. But a stronger part knew that would only teach her and Jamie that emotional blackmail worked, setting up a future where they could demand anything with the same tactics. I thought about everything I had built, not just the company, but my sense of self-worth and agency. I had spent my life trying to prove my value to someone who was fundamentally incapable of seeing it. Now I needed to fully commit to valuing myself even without her validation. The next morning, I did something I had been avoiding. I blocked my mother's and Jamie's numbers, email addresses, and social media accounts. I instructed our office manager to refuse their calls and have security deny them entry if they appeared in person. I consulted a lawyer about a cease and desist letter regarding the defamatory online posts. These were painful steps closing doors I had always hoped would eventually open wider. But they were necessary for my well-being and for the company I was responsible for leading. I could not change my mother or brother, but I could change how much access they had to my life. With these boundaries firmly in place, I could finally turn my full attention back to what mattered: the mission and people I had committed to serve. 3 months have passed since I made the decision to stand my ground. The storm has largely subsided, though occasional flare-ups remind me that the underlying dynamics remain unchanged. What has changed profoundly is my relationship with myself and my understanding of what constitutes true family. I began seeing Dr. Maxwell weekly, working through the complex grief of losing a relationship that, while painful, had been central to my identity. She helped me recognize that my worth was never contingent on my mother's approval, and that the conditional love I had grown up with was not the only kind available to me. "You are mourning the mother you needed, not just the relationship you had," she explained during one particularly difficult session. "It is okay to feel that loss deeply, while still knowing you made the right choice for your well-being." One unexpected outcome of this crisis was the strengthening of my chosen family. Sarah and I grew even closer, our partnership deepening beyond business into a friendship that felt more like sisterhood than anything I had experienced with blood relatives. She understood what this company meant to me because it meant the same to her, not just financial success, but a manifestation of our values and vision for how education could be more inclusive. Other friends stepped up too. My college roommate flew in for a weekend just to take me hiking and remind me there was life beyond this conflict. My neighbor, an elderly woman who had always been kind but distant, began inviting me for weekly tea after noticing my distress, sharing wisdom from her own family estrangements decades earlier. I found particular solace in a support group for adults dealing with toxic family relationships. Hearing others' stories helped me understand that my experience, while painful, was not unique. Many had faced similar ultimatums and manipulations. Some had reconciled on healthier terms after establishing firm boundaries, while others had found peace in permanent separation. All emphasized that healing was possible, regardless of the outcome with my family. Professionally, things stabilized. The company secured another round of funding to expand our services to international markets. Our newest feature, designed to help multilingual students navigate content in their second language, received acclaim from educators worldwide. The client we lost during my moment of crisis was replaced by 3 others who appreciated our mission and approach. Jamie eventually found employment at a marketing firm across the country. I heard through my uncle that he was actually doing well there, having found a mentor who both supported and challenged him. Perhaps being free of our mother's suffocating favoritism and excessive protection was what he had needed all along to develop genuine competence and responsibility. I have not spoken to my mother since that final phone call. The first few weeks, I checked my blocked messages folder compulsively, hoping for some sign of softening or reconciliation. There was nothing but more manipulation and guilt trips. Eventually, I stopped looking. Instead, I channeled my energy into creating something positive from this painful experience. I established a mentoring program within our company, pairing experienced women in tech with young female engineers and developers. We focused particularly on those from disadvantaged backgrounds or dysfunctional family situations, offering not just professional guidance, but also the emotional support and validation many of us had lacked growing up. The program has become one of the most rewarding aspects of my work. Watching these young women bloom under positive attention and genuine recognition of their talents has healed something in me. I see my younger self in their eager faces and am determined to give them what I never received: unconditional encouragement and the message that their worth is inherent, not dependent on what they achieve or who they please. Some days are still hard. Birthdays, holidays, and random Tuesday afternoons when a memory ambushes me unexpectedly. I allow myself to feel the sadness when it comes, no longer afraid that acknowledging the pain means I made the wrong choice. It is possible to be at peace with a decision while still grieving what it cost. What surprises me most is the strength I have discovered in myself. I always thought I was resilient because circumstances forced me to be, but now I recognize resilience as an active choice renewed daily. Each time I prioritize my well-being, each time I refuse to minimize the harm done to me, each time I celebrate my accomplishments without needing external validation, I am choosing to honor my own worth in a way I never believed possible before. The company continues to thrive, not despite my personal growth, but because of it. Leading from a place of wholeness, rather than wound, has made me a better CEO, more present with my team, and clearer about our mission. We recently won a major industry award for innovation, and standing on that stage, I felt a momentary pang that my mother would never know or care about this achievement. But it passed quickly, replaced by gratitude for the people who were there, cheering me on, whose support was freely given, rather than weaponized. I do not know what the future holds for my family relationships. Perhaps someday my mother will recognize the unfairness of her ultimatum and reach out with genuine remorse. Perhaps Jamie will mature enough to take responsibility for his choices, rather than expecting others to solve his problems. I would welcome healthier connections with both of them, but I no longer need those relationships to feel complete. Sometimes the most difficult choice, the one you fear will destroy you, turns out to be the very thing that shows you who you truly are. By refusing to sacrifice my integrity and all I had built for the illusion of family harmony, I discovered that I am stronger, more worthy of love, and more capable of creating meaningful connection than I ever imagined possible. And that perhaps is the most valuable lesson of all. Have you ever had to choose between someone you love and what you know is right? Let me know in the comments below. This journey has taught me that sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are the most necessary ones. If my story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more authentic life experiences. Share this video with someone who might need to know they are not alone in facing difficult family dynamics. Thank you for witnessing my truth today, and remember, your worth is never dependent on someone else's ability to see it.